Thank you for sticking around, guys. You're still watching VBuzz. This is Roshan. I am Shankari. And as we promise you, every month we'll be having a session with Shankar Santhiram, and he is going to help us get promoted. Now, Shankar Santhiram of EQTD Consulting recently released his new book titled So You Want to Get Promoted? And last month, we kicked off a new series with him where we will be discussing the keys to get you on the path to that promotion. Now, this week, we get down to the nitty-gritty of the first key that will get you noticed. Welcome back, Shankar.
Always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure to have you in the studio. It's always a pleasure to get promoted. And the first key from your new book is getting noticed in order to get promoted.
Right.
Why?
That's right. 5 keys to get yourself promoted. I've distilled all the work that I've done over the last 20 years as a management consultant, as a leadership coach, as an employee myself, and an employer in the past, a good employee sometimes, and a bad employee often when I was younger, because I didn't have the book So You Want to Get Promoted written 20 years ago.
Nice.
It would have shortened my career trajectory, I think, in terms of growth. I distilled it down to 5 keys that I think we need to all remember if we want to get promoted. And I think over the course of the next few months, we'll be talking about all the 5 keys. The first key is get noticed.
Yep.
Now, of course, I start that particular chapter called Get Noticed by saying that some of you might actually be thinking that this is not rocket science, because you do need to get noticed.
Yeah.
But, you know, Shankari, before we came on now, we talked about this a little bit, you know. We tend to get noticed for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's very true.
You get noticed when you come to work late. You get noticed when you turn up to a meeting completely unprepared. You get noticed when you waffle when someone asks you a question and you don't get to the point, you know.
Or when you try too hard.
Or when you try too hard, absolutely. When you start getting very nervous about what you do. So I think the first step in key number 1, which is, so the way I've structured the book is like this. I have 5 keys, and each key I give you 5 steps.
Okay.
So it's 25 steps to get you there. So it's a no fluff book, as I keep talking whenever I speak to anybody or any group of people about the book itself. It's completely unfiltered in the sense that it gets right down to what you
Honesty.
need. I think I try to keep it authentic.
Yeah, like you said, if you need a little pick-me-up, just pick up the book and just go through.
That's right. Pick one of the pages, and that'll help you. Now, so the first step of getting noticed is let your results speak for yourself. Achievement. So what you need to do is, as soon as you get into an organization, and I'm talking to people who have just started work, for example. This helps with people who've just started work. Of course, this helps with people who have been in employment for some time as well.
And haven't moved at all.
And haven't moved, yeah. The first thing you need to do is you need to get noticed. And getting noticed is you start off by scoring some achievements in your organization. Now, what is achievement? This is you know, you might be working in a company that takes perfection quite seriously. Sometimes there's I can't attribute this. I don't know who said this, but I read this once, that perfect sometimes is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know who said it, but I think it's very true that often we think that we need to be absolutely perfect before we can actually do. I'm not actually talking about work process. I'm not talking about the quality of your work that gets you noticed. At the beginning stages, as soon as you get into the job, first thing you do is look around and see what are the process flows within your organization. And think if you have any ideas on how to improve this process flow, these process flows, right? Offer your organization ideas at the beginning. Try and get your team, the team that you work with, get them to turn on the charm, get them to buy into an idea that you think might be useful. Now, in themselves, you might not actually achieve anything by giving these ideas. But what you end up doing is when you go up to your boss and say, boss, you know, I have this idea of how to make this process flow better. What happens is the boss might say, actually, you know, we've tried this before, it doesn't work. Or, okay, you know, you only have one of 2 things.
It's just making yourself being present in the situation.
Getting yourself noticed.
Exactly.
That's how you get noticed.
At the same time, like you said earlier, it's important to set goals and you know, to actually perform at work. That's one of the biggest way to get noticed. But what if one does not achieve the intended results? How do you face up to your boss then?
Keep trying. You keep trying all the time in terms of getting noticed. What you do is you keep... See, everything is predicated on purpose. If you are very clear what your purpose is, so if you walk into an organization and your purpose is to get promoted, is to produce the best results because you're doing it for yourself, because all of us come to work for our own personal growth at the end of the day. I'm sitting here for my own personal growth. You both are working here for your own personal growth. While this might be a job that you do today, and this might give you traction, this might give you the what do you call it, the reach through television. At the end of the day, you're here for your own personal growth. So if you're very connected with purpose, you will get knocked down, but you will get up again. That's a song, isn't it? I think.
I don't get.
You will. That's right. You will get knocked down, but you will get up again.
Chumbawamba.
It's right, Chumbawamba's song. And I think it's one of my favorite songs. You know, if my favorite feel-good song. You know, whenever I feel a bit down, I look for that song because it helps me understand. It helps me stay connected with my own purpose. So yes, if you will not always get noticed immediately, even if you try, but try you must.
But what if you do try, you do achieve your goals, and then you don't get noticed for it? What happens then?
Well, I think every employee needs to understand that there is internal equity within an organization. Sometimes you might come in and there are organizations that are very clear. You can't get promoted for the first 3 years that you're working there. Some organizations that I work with one of the largest or probably the most well-known GLC in Malaysia, and they have a very simple procedure of promotion. It's a 3-year waiting list for promotions, and they benchmark it very clearly. They say that, you know, your yearly evaluation scores at a maximum of 4, you need to be above 3.0 to be considered for a promotion. So they set you targets. So you should constantly look for organizations that add value to you. So remember that when you actually go into an organization, the first thing you need to understand is, does this organization give me an integrated learning process? You know, which means it tells me that we must be very clear. If you walk into a company I'm just going to do some hand gestures here. If you walk into a particular company and this is your level of competency, if you work there for 1 to 5 years, and if at the end of the 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, a year, you leave that organization and your levels of competency are exactly the same, you have totally wasted your time and wasted your career. But if this delta figure that you have, if you increase your level of competency, no matter what that figure is, the higher you keep on. And sometimes that increase of competency doesn't come with just promotions. It gives its work product as well. And often you will find if you are doing exceedingly well in a particular company, if you have been approached or headhunted, or if you see an opportunity come by, when you go for that interview in the other company, what people will ask you is, people very clearly ask you, what did you do here? What are your achievements? Now, if you proactively take those steps, right, to constantly think about getting noticed and coming up with good ideas to improve process flows, etc. When you go for the other interview, you can sit like this and you can talk about this. Now, I can only talk about this without referring to my book, or because this is internalized inside me.
You've been there,
done it, worked it, spoken about it, discussed it with the people, and helped people progress and move along.
You know, Shankar, the other thing that I've heard some people say that, you know, spend time with your boss, or you know, attend social events, and you know, that's like an intrinsic part of getting noticed. Now, what other benefits can some gain of this? And what if one does not have, you know, the time to actually get involved in such social events?
When in the book, in that first chapter, which is Get Noticed, I break it down into 5 steps, as I said. So the first one is achievement. The second one we covered a little bit, which is about admitting your mistakes. You know, I just want to do a little bit of a recap of that before we go into the social part, if you don't mind. Now, this admitting mistakes, for example, is the second step. Now, I'm not asking you to go out in search of mistakes. So don't actively walk around your office thinking, ooh, I'll make that mistake, and then I'll tell my boss, hey, dude, I made a mistake. Many people I find in organizations, and this happens in my own organization, when you work long enough, and if you take on a leadership role long enough, you will be able to sniff out the kind of, you know, the cheats, the morally bankrupt, the people who are, you know, are trying to skive off, and people who make excuses. You know, I always ask people to be proactive in everything that they do. Now, all of us make mistakes. Now, I prefer to work with people who tell me if they forgot to do something.
Up front.
And instead of trying to cook up a story and justify and tell me grandfather stories and, you know, this happened and my cat died and my grandmother's in hospital, and how many times has your grandmother been in hospital over the last month, you know? You don't want to have these type of discussions. You must be able to immediately put your hand up and say, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, really, I know I should have concentrated. And also, you need to kind of, you know, own up. And you also have to understand that every action has a consequence.
Yeah.
So whilst you want to get noticed for the right reason, if you do make a mistake, you need to put your hand up and say, I am wrong and I won't do this again and I will learn from it. The reason why you want to do this is because I believe in humanizing your relationship with your bosses.
Yeah.
Right? If you can actually humanize your relationship with your boss, where your boss actually thinks and understands that you also have issues and problems and you're trying to work that through, it becomes so much better for you to grow.
One way to do that is to have, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, attend social events
That's right.
with your boss.
So now you come back to the social events. Now, when I say get social, that's the third step, which, you know, get social. People always, and this question, I
don't have time, I've got kids to take care.
I got this, I got that, right? Let's start off with this premise, right? When you if you got headhunted for a job, then I understand.
Okay.
But I think only 10% of people in the world get headhunted for jobs. The other 90%, we seek out positions, we track organizations, we apply for jobs. When you apply for a job, what do? You pitch up for an interview, sometimes 1, 2, 3. Some companies will give you 5 interviews before they actually decide to engage you. You meet different people in different departments and you get a whole feel of the place and they get a feel for you. What do you do in that 2 interviews or 3 interviews? All of us sit in these 2 interviews, and I'm going to be slightly controversial here when I say this. We sit in these interviews and we lie.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
I will climb the highest mountain for this company. I will
Yes.
dive the deepest oceans.
I'm a leader, but I'm also a good follower.
I'm fantastic. I'm the
Yes.
all-round
I'm
good
the
guy.
greatest thing on the planet.
Exactly. I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And you know what? 7 days a week, no problem. I will dedicate my life to this. Late nights, no issue. Absolutely zero problem.
But Shankar, the great thing about this interview is the fact that time has actually flown by. We'll have to continue this in our next session.
Yes, we
Absolutely.
have
We'll
to.
talk some
I'm
more
being
about
honest
this.
right
No,
now.
very
Yes.
good.
Being upfront.
Very good. I made a mistake. I talked too much. I'm sorry.
No,
I'll
but it
cut
was
that
brilliant,
down.
Shankar. And we have, 5 steps for the first point, and we have got 2 more steps.
That's right.
And we will be continuing it very soon. Thank you so much
you.
for
My
joining
pleasure.
us on VBuzz. Now we've got 3 steps down, Roshan. Perhaps we're 1 step closer to the promotion.
Shankar, thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Remember, the book is here with me. You need to get it yourself. But tomorrow on VBuzz, Renson Chen, a performing artist from Hong Kong, stops by and we find out more about his theatrical pursuits and his upcoming production.
And singer-songwriter Sid Murshid, who has taken the urban music scene by storm, joins us for a chat about his keyboard prowess.
And on V-Tempo, we continue our feature on Indian classical instruments. And this time, we take a look at the guitar.
Keep writing to us, guys, at vbuzz@astro.com.my and follow us on Instagram at vbuzz_HD.
We might just tell you how to get this book, by the way.
Yes, and I hope you learned a thing or two today in the show, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. My name is Shankri.
I'm Roshan. Till the next time. Bye-bye for now.
Good night.